Here we go, CFB 900 live for a Sunday evening. This is week 5, part 1 edition of the show. Tonight, we're going to walk you through our top takeaways from week 4. We're going to talk about the market and walk you through some of the key market openers. Before we get you out of here, we're going to give you 2 best bets. Bobby, we're on the clock, so let's just jump right into it. Google Meet Kirk Cinetti and the fighting Hoosiers out of Bloomington. They definitely put on a show Saturday night, blowing out the Illini 63-10.
Yeah, I think Bert Bielema is going to need a cigarette after that game on Saturday night. But yeah, 63-10 drubbing of Illinois, and now Indiana quarterback Mendoza is now the Heisman favorite. This was obviously the game in the late window, actually, that I was planning on being the most focused on, and that I wanted to watch because of what we talked about last week with just the lack of having data on these teams, and kind of seeing all that. Did not need to do that after half. Indiana simply dominated the Illini in every facet of the game, controlled the line of scrimmage, halting the Illinois ground attack, got plenty of push on the other side of the ball as well, allowing Mendoza to get to the ball to the receivers. Obviously, Illinois did have some secondary injuries, but that didn't make the difference in the margin. This was a full domination by the Hoosiers in this one. Obviously, many have hassled the Hoosiers for playing a weak non-conference schedule, and even if you rightfully recognize that Illinois wasn't a true top 10 team, this is a win you cannot discount for the Hoosiers. They seem pretty legit.
Yeah, that game was pretty much over by the first quarter, like you mentioned. Even the secondary guys being out, non-factor.
Yeah, and I had a buddy in the building, and he's like, the atmosphere in this place is just, the roof came off, figuratively, of course, and it's just fantastic game, great for that fan base too. Obviously, after the success of last year. But yeah, it's something we'll talk about it a bit later too, but where does Indiana, truly rank in terms of PRs? What do you do with them kind of moving forward now that they've kind of, planted their flag here, now 2 seasons in a row?
Indiana took a lot of money, and that money paid off in a big way. And they've already taken a lot of money so far with the market open today.
Yep.
Jumping right into takeaway number 2, Death Valley. It's a poor look right now for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers as they dropped another one at home to Syracuse.
Yeah, and don't forget, they have a 1-3 record, but don't forget they were down at half to Troy as well in week 2. Right. so that they could even be worse than that. This is a true bottom falling out for the Tigers. Dabo having odd pressers, even by his standards. The fans in their own stadium, I heard, are getting after its own players on the sidelines, telling them to play better. The fans on the front row during that Syracuse game on Saturday. They have talent. They just aren't performing, period. What is concerning for Clemson is that Dabo is that this was supposed to be the year. All the returning production, returning quarterback, Cade Klubnik, who has NFL potential. Right. Next year, they're going to lose all of this. QB recruiting hasn't been what it was prior with Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence. They've had, you mentioned, Cade goes down. They don't have a quality backup quarterback. And some of that's because they don't go into the portal, which is the other problem here. If they lose all this talent because it goes to the NFL, they're not going to bring in 40 guys to replace them. Because they don't use it in droves. You really have to wonder if not only is Clemson done for this year, but is the Clemson that we've known for the last decade and a half, is that over at this point? And can they even get back under this regime to what they once were?
They do get the week off. It's worth mentioning that, but then they get Bill Belichick in North Carolina. So
I did see that funny tweet where it's they're playing at 10 a.m. on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
That was a hilarious tweet.
It's where the game belongs.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team that you won't hear, how I handle a lot of these teams, the Kansas States of the world, Florida State last year, what Clemson's doing right now. You're not going to see me back them until you see that bounce back up. They need to cover a game. And deservingly so, not just backdoor it or front door it or whatever. Right. It has to be a legit cover before, you just see that sign of life kind of deal. And right now they don't have it.
Takeaway number 3 from Saturday, a new leader in the Big 12 race. Texas Tech gets the win at Utah, and they quiet the skeptics.
Yeah, that Texas Tech defensive line is legit. We talked about how, we like the Utah offensive line, one of the best groups in the country. And, I had some concerns about the Texas Tech D-line. Like, obviously, they, ton of transfer portal talent, had a couple concerning stats against weak opponents. They stifled that offense all day. Dan Pierce struggled in the passing game, something we were concerned about coming in from New Mexico, but they looked crisp to start the year, against UCLA. But Utah didn't get anything going for 3.5 quarters. Another note about Tech is, like, we've talked about the health of Morton, the quarterback there, who's had various injuries in previous seasons. Well, he did his thing, and got hurt again, left the game. But freshman Will Hammond came in and, quite frankly, impressed. 13-16, pair of touchdowns, just stabilizing that game, where that game could have flipped in that instance where it was still close. Like, it was a low scoring battle up until that point. And behind Hammond, like, they were able to get separation late there. But yeah, with him, with now having a competent backup, that was something that held me off, with thinking about Texas Tech long term, what they could do, because I just wasn't confident that Morton could hold up over 12 games. Now I'm not as worried about that. Big upgrade from Texas Tech. We're downgrading Utah as well, obviously, but you got to take the Red Raiders seriously here now.
Yeah, it almost feels like they can actually package plays for Hammond and get him more involved in the game, even when the starter comes back.
Right.
Takeaway number 4, the ineligible Delaware Blue Hens get another FBS win.
Yep, yet another impressive win for the Blue Hens, are now 2-1 against FBS competition. Their first season on the FBS level, an overtime thriller against UConn 2 weeks ago, and of course the blowout win on Saturday against FIU, who's a team I know there were some people I respect who are saying, like, yeah, FIU could win CUSA. We talked about Liberty previously and how they're falling off. It's like, okay, hey, there's an opportunity here for someone in CUSA, and people were looking at FIU. Well, they handled them thoroughly here. In their opener against FCS foe and rival Delaware State, they lost their starting quarterback, but backup Nick Minicucci has done more than well filling in. 65% completion, 8-2 touchdown interception ratio. Delaware had a decent bit returning on defense. They have some really good skill position talent, actually, for an FCS team coming up to the FBS. And with Liberty faltering, it's possible that the Blue Hens might actually be like the best team in CUSA. But however, just like James Madison and that you mentioned, from the last couple of years, and the second dumbest rule in college sports, they are not eligible to make a bowl or win the conference title just yet. But shout out to the Blue Hens.
Our top and final takeaway from yesterday, and probably a takeaway that's going to be ongoing this year, is the Heisman race. Seems more wide open than ever. Still a quarterback award. Just really depends on which quarterback you think might win it.
Right. And then we mentioned it earlier in the first takeaway. This is a market that FanDuel, DraftKings, some of the other sports books actually keep open during the games on Saturday. And you're seeing aggressive reactions during the biggest games of the slate. So Georgia, Tennessee 2 weeks ago, you actually saw Joey Aguilar go from the clouds to 12-1 or something when Tennessee was up 10 in that game. And obviously, passing all over Georgia's defense in that one. And then same thing, Fernando Mendoza again with IU and that win over Illinois, jumps right up to now being the favorite along with Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer. With this week, and we'll talk about some of these games later, you have two, marquee games this week actually at the same time: Oregon, Penn State, Alabama, Georgia. You're going to see some shifts in that window in the Heisman market. Currently, there's no player. You don't have a Genti who's putting up a historical statistical season on the ground. You don't have a Travis Hunter, unique figure, right? Doing, going both ways at Colorado. And there's not a quarterback putting up crazy stats like a Jane Daniels or a Caleb Williams that we've had in recent years as well. You're going to see these odd shifts during those games. So when you're going into these games, thinking about them going forward, right? You like Oregon this week. You got to ask yourself, do you want to take Dante Moore? Things like that. Hey, you like Georgia against Alabama. What about Gunnar Stockton? You think about those things. That's definitely going to be something you want to do moving forward. I know I don't see Mendoza keeping this up just because Indiana has at Oregon, at Penn State later in the year. And then Mateer with that schedule. I mean, every opponent they had as of last week every opponent on Oklahoma's SEC schedule is ranked. So I don't know if he's going to get to 10 or 11 wins to actually win the award. So you have a vulnerable favorite and a rapid odds shift that could happen. So it's going to be a fascinating race going forward.
Random question for you. One that just came to my mind was, do you think Cristobal's conservative offense could stifle Carson Beck's opportunity or run for the Heisman?
Definitely. I mean, last year with Ward, who obviously finished second, he was putting up the stats, but it was because the defense was so bad for Miami that he had to push the go forward button. This Miami defense is legit. So he's not going to have to, like, look at the game against Florida on Saturday. Beck didn't have to have a good game to win that defense. Florida was never scoring enough points to win that game. Unless Mario completely botched it, which he thought about. He definitely considered it. But yeah, I don't know if Mario will push him that way, the same way maybe he held back maybe Justin Herbert in some way at Oregon.
Right. Bobby, the market is open and the numbers are on the move. What game we're going to go to first and talk us through what you think?
Yep. 133, 134, Iowa, Indiana. So theme of this podcast, we're going to talk about the Hoosiers a lot. But fascinating game. How much do you upgrade Indiana? This is going to get quite expensive. Obviously, if you want to back the Hoosiers in Kinnick. The thing is here is we know IU took a boatload of money all week. We mentioned like it blew past my number against Illinois, and I'm lower on Illinois than the market. I know it flashed 7 near close, hosting the Illini. So how far is this going to go? Is Indiana going to continue to take money, or was that a pure Illini fade? And then when does if does the buyback on Iowa come? Can you stomach it? That'll be something I'll be considering all week myself. Tough road environment, first road game for IU off one of their biggest program wins in program history with a top 10 win at home. I know I'll be looking towards Iowa potentially, but we don't want to see where this market goes. And as you see, 6.5, 7.5, 7s out there. Interesting to see if it continues to tick up or not. Next one, 163, 164. This is the Bob personal entertainment game of the day. I love option football. And we have Rice, a new triple option team, against an old head triple option team in Navy. Obviously, you have a couple interesting dynamics. Maybe some of the trends guys will look at this and go, well, you have an option team as a 2-touchdown underdog. I'm taking it. And you also have an option team as a 2-touchdown favorite, fading it. But also low total. How do those interact? I was on Rice last week against Charlotte. Was a little bit worried about the Rice defense there. And at the end, now it's more of a passing defense thing, and obviously Navy runs the option. I'm on market for it, but I know I just can't wait to watch this game, just because of the unique dynamics of two different triple options facing each other. Next one, 175, 176, LSU Ole Miss. Another one. So we talked about Clemson in the beginning and kind of mentioned this a few times before. LSU's keep on getting less credit for their wins. They beat Florida, needed 5 turnovers to do so to win that game by 10, 20-10. LSU offense has been stuck in mud a bit, and then you're actually downgrading LSU for what Florida's doing and what Clemson has been doing in the early season. And Ole Miss, impressive performance. Complete wrong side we were on with Tulane on Saturday. That's my bad. But you're seeing Trinidad Chambliss perform very, very well. You have to consider whether he's going to stay the starter when Simmons is fully healthy or not. Fascinated to see where this market goes. I technically still make LSU a little bit of a favorite here, but not enough to bet right now or, suggest to everyone else. But interested to see where this market goes. I highly doubt if it can hit 3. Next one, 181, 182, USC, Illinois, the other side of this, right? Huge downgrade from Illinois. This game went from pick-ish, USC small favorite, and now we're looking, mostly 6.5s out there. I did see 1-7 flash for a second after the dismantling in Bloomington. Obviously, some few defensive injuries in the secondary for Illinois, and that's something that you're going to have to consider. If they are missing, that's a huge matchup issue. However, you're going to see noon kickoff. It's going to be a spot problem for USC. You'd have to downgrade Illinois. Call it 4-ish points, which makes sense off that game to get to this number. But I think you have some contrasting styles here. Interesting to see what the market does with this one. probably blew up our spot as a good Illinois fade. Next one, we'll go to the two. Actually, we'll just finish with the two big games of the day, back to back in the rotation order. Oregon 195, 196, 197, 198. Oregon Penn State. So this is another one. I don't know where the market goes from here. Dante Moore, first road start for the Ducks in the Penn State whiteout game. I was there at Penn State a few years back for the whiteout. It's an absolutely insane experience. Recommend if you get a chance to go to that. You obviously give Penn State a massive home field for this game. And Oregon has passed Penn State in basically all the power ratings here. So I know if Oregon takes money kind of based on that, I might look towards a cheap Penn State money line. If I get a Penn State minus 120 money line or 125, that's my initial look. But I'm definitely just kind of interested in seeing where the market goes from here. And then Alabama, Georgia. Actually, don't want to talk about the side. I want to talk about the total. Matchup wise, you're going to see a QB who can move with Gunnar Stockton against the Bama defense that has struggled to get defending that last 2 years under Kalen DeBoer and Kane Womack. And we saw Georgia's secondary get absolutely torched by Tennessee a few weeks back. And obviously Ryan Williams, great receiving core on Alabama side.
Yep.
The difference is here is you actually won't see the pace that Tennessee does, keeping the possessions high. So I think that you could see slower pace, slower possessions, which makes this total, which is only a couple points different than what Georgia-Tennessee was a few weeks back, not as enticing. So while I lean over based on what we see matchup-wise, I haven't pulled the trigger yet. I want to see where the market goes. It's 53.5 right now. You see 154 to 52 at half. It's kind of been in that range the entire morning. I'll be interested to kind of see what this first move is tomorrow morning, early in the week on this one.
Before we jump into best bets, if you guys don't mind, please give us a like and subscribe. It lets Bobby and I know this is quality content. And for you personally, it lets the algorithm know that, hey, this guy likes quality betting content. And perhaps the algorithm will start to suggest other small creators like Bobby and ourselves that are good quality creators that you just don't know about yet. So, Bobby, we finished 3-1 last week, and we are 8-6 on the season. And we have a best bet here on the side. We like the Connecticut Huskies laying the 3 against Buffalo.
Yep, going back to Buffalo, New York for another best bet 2 weeks in a row here. Also for another quarterback injury, as Buffalo quarterback Taquan Robinson left the game against Troy prior to the Trojans' comeback victory over the Bulls. Gunnar Gray came in and relieved him. I'm unsure of Robinson's status at this time. This question mark, though, makes it a go for me, though. We've seen Buffalo with 2 back-to-back lackluster performances against Kent State and now Troy. With Connecticut, the offense is led by Joe Fagano. And I think this UConn Huskies team can attack the weaker part of the Bulls defense, which is their pass defense. I think the Huskies can get enough points here to put pressure on the Bulls offense, possibly with a backup quarterback or a banged up starter.
Right.
And become kind of too much for them. So we like UConn minus the 3 here.
And our final best bet for today's show, we like the over 59.5 in Western Kentucky, Missouri State.
Yep. I think this total is a bit short as Missouri State just had just a couple weird games by both teams last couple weeks, but Missouri State's like one of the worst defensive teams in the country. And then I think Maverick MacGyver and the air raid of Western Kentucky can really put one on him here and get their offense back on the right track. On the Missouri State side of things, they have a little higher pace. So again, I think we're going to see a ton of possessions here to kind of help get this one over the total. Decent offenses. Both have had a little bit of a turnover issues, which obviously can hurt this. But hey, if both these offenses get short fields, that can also help the total in this case, as long as they don't happen in the red zone. So I think this should be in the low 60s. So yeah, give me the over 59.5, Western Kentucky and Missouri State.
You can follow Bobby on X at BobbyDigital2. You can follow the show at CFB900. Bobby and I will be back here on Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time, to talk through you the biggest games of the week, including Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Penn State. And I think we'll probably have 2 or 3 other big games we'll talk you through, as well as a couple best bets, and we'll take you through all the biggest market movement of the week from now up through Wednesday. So please mark your calendar. Join us back here Wednesday, 7 o'clock. And until then, we wish you the best of luck. Adios.